All right, let's not leave you hanging any much longer. Welcome to the Eternal Chronicles live stream for a Monday, October 26th. Yeah, it is ORKTOBER. It is the last week of ORKTOBER. And so I got a lot of work to do. How's everybody doing? Oh, wait for it. Sorry, I got to put on my orky necklace here. Get us going into le moment, the day of days, it being Monday. How's everybody doing? Anybody out there? Don't know. Don't matter. I'm painting orcs. I'm basing orcs. I'm trying to get my Orktober pledge done. And I'm doing really well. I actually threw everything onto the table the other day and took a photo of it, and was amazed at just how much progress I have made, how much stuff is actually painted. I feel like I'm sitting a little low today. I rearranged my desk over the weekend a little bit, and now I feel like everything is off. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. Basing orcs is what I was doing. So you may notice on Friday I didn't do a show because I went and got a COVID test and was then like isolating myself. So I think I even mentioned on like Wednesday or Thursday show, I was like, I got a weird like lump in my throat. Thursday afternoon, late evening, the lump in my throat started to become like a sore throat, and I was starting to feel like some other sort of like you know how you get a little when you get a cold or something, you get a little dizzy, a little lightheaded. So I was getting that, and I was like, and then I was breathing, and I was like, oh, I don't know, like what's going on. So I said, well, as is the day and age that we live in, it is probably wise for me to go and get a COVID test. So I went and got a COVID test for Friday morning. Got the results back Saturday morning. But in the meantime, while I was waiting for those results, and spoiler alert, I'm COVID free. As I was waiting for those results, I locked myself in my bedroom, isolated myself from everyone else who lives here, primarily my daughter being the most important one. Uh, and so just and painted orcs. Basically, spent all day Friday and part of Saturday morning painting orcs, waiting for my results to come back in from the hospital when I went and got my nose swabbed, and that was uncomfortable. So it's like it almost looks like a pipe cleaner, this big long white pipe cleaner, and they stick it. And she says, "Oh, I'm just gonna stick it in your nose," and it's like this long, right? And by the time she was done, she was holding the back of it, and by the time she was done, she was like basically touching my nose, so it went all the way in, and it wasn't painful, but it was uncomfortable, and it tickled. It tickled like crazy. So as soon as she pulls it out, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna sneeze, and she goes, well, that's okay, and I go, okay, and I sneezed huge, right? So, anyways, my results came back Saturday. No COVID, just a sore throat. One of those things, right? And normally it's one of those things that I would just dismiss and be like, means nothing. But as it being the day and age in which we live in, it was one of those things where I felt like okay, well, I have to take responsibility for this, because if it is something, if it is COVID, I'm negligent in ignoring it. So I don't know. One fake karma point for me for going and getting a test, for spending my Friday morning at the hospital in line with a bunch of people who probably have COVID. Because that's the best way to go get COVID, is to go expose yourself to people who may or may not have also be in the situation you're in. So, anyways, let's enough talk about that, because I'm sure that the fact that I've said COVID like 6 or 7 times means that this whole video is going to get pulled down for, I don't know, who knows, right? So as far as I can tell, my analytics are telling me that nobody's watching. So yay. I'm going to switch to the overhead, because I'm going to show you my desk, which is a mess because I've been working on bases, which generally leaves my desk a mess. So just give me 2 seconds here to zoom in a little bit. And then we'll go over to the master shot. And there we are in the master shot. So you can see my desk is funny. So there's a bunch of orcs over here. So these guys are waiting to essentially have their bases done. Now the bases I've done in multiple stage processes. And you don't have to spend this much time on your bases. I actually really enjoy basing models, so I tend to spend a lot of time doing it. So I will show you the first model that I based, which was the Dreadnought here, the Orc Dreadnought, or whatever you want to call it now, Death Dread. It's a Dreadnought. So you can see the base as it is. Where this base is at, and where I have a bunch of other bases that are at basically the same stage, is I need to do some weathering pigments on these. So I have these, I believe these are secret weapon. Yeah, these are secret weapon pigments. And you can see pigments are messy. So when I do them, I tend to do them right over a garbage can, which means doing them on stream may be a little bit difficult, because what I usually do is I'll put the garbage can, I'll take my little garbage, my little trash bin, my little trash receptacle here, and I put it between my legs down on the floor, and I put the model into, you can kind of see in the overhead there, I will put the model into the trash bin and then apply my pigment so that any loose pigment just falls into the trash bin. That's normally how I would do it. We'll see if I do it like that on stream, just because it's so messy. Like, that's why they're in their own little package, but then they're also inside this blister, because working with pigments is messy work. So, but what I want to do is, you can see on here, and I'll try and get a better shot of it for you. Maybe a bit more light will help. Where I've put the watch glitter that they call it, or whatever it is, I'm gonna put some rust powdering on that. And this is brown, so I'll start with the brown, and then I'll do the orange. And then I have some pigment setting solution, which is like, where's my pigment setting solution? There it is. And it's also secret weapon, and it's, what is it? It's poisonous, and it's really gross, and it smells terrible. Contains petroleum distillates. Yeah, so that'll probably kill me at some point. So I'll show you. So that's done. I've got a bunch of orcs here whose bases are essentially at the same point, so I need to be doing weathering on them. And I've got some bases that are still need to be dry brushed, so I will dry brush those. And then I have all these guys who are basically waiting for me to put stuff on their bases to be finished. And it's a process. The way I do the bases on these is much like I did the bases on my Iron Jaws, a little bit less, a little bit more subdued than the bases on the Iron Jaws, and I am going to put some vegetation on them. I'm just not really sure what yet. The idea is I'm trying to unify all the bases for my Logan's World campaign. Logan's World being an example planet, Imperial planet in the Rogue Trader rulebook, and it's basically like the Mad Max planet. So it's all Badlands, so that's why I went with this coloration, which is very, very similar to the coloration on my Iron Jaws bases for Age of Sigmar, which you can see over at the EternalChronicles.ca if you head on over there. They are in the Hall of the Goblin King, I don't know, something like that. They're in one of the galleries. You'll see them there. And that website I'm actually going to be working on once ORKTOBER is over. I've got a whole bunch of stuff, a whole bunch of photos to go up on there. I've been playing around with some sort of new formatting for the website and stuff. I know websites are passé. I know that they're, but I'm basically a boomer. Or at least I was raised by one, right? So we'll see where that's at. Weird that I'm not. Let me check something here. Yeah. All right. Not a lot of traction on a Monday, I'm guessing. We'll see. I mean, on average, my videos are getting like 30 views, and who knows how long people are actually watching for that. I'm thinking that I might start I might switch over my live streaming and live stream on Twitch. I have to figure out how to, and I've talked about that before, and I've discussed it with some other people that do live streaming. That Twitch may be a place to get more engagement for live stream, sort of this sort of stuff, and that YouTube is then sort of the backup repository for the live streams. And then in the new year, when hopefully, sorry, I'm just dusting myself off because I've been doing some basing and stuff today, so it's a little messy. In the new year or later this year, hopefully December, when I start, when I'm able to shoot some produced content, so doing some battle reports and things like that, that'll obviously be here on the YouTubes. But YouTube live streaming doesn't seem to I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Everything is wrong. Everything feels like there's way too much headspace above me here because I move my monitor and my camera, and so I'm trying to make myself a little bit more centered, but I tend to spin. So yeah, so let's do some basing. I'm gonna start with the simplest stuff. Well, I'll start from the beginning. So I've got all these guys sitting over here, and you probably haven't seen that these are painted because I painted them over the weekend. I had a bunch of other guys, so I had about 8 or 9 models that were essentially bare metal, including all my odd boys. So let's zoom in here so you can stop looking at my belly and my crotch, and we'll zoom in here. So here's my runt herd. So this is from the initial original Odd Boys release, which happened just like a few months prior to the Orcs getting their own book in 40K. So these guys were basically the prototypes for the Odd Boys, and then when they finished with these guys, right, they produced the other Odd Boys. So the newer ones, the ones that most people are familiar with, which are like this Pain Boy. So this guy, voila. This guy is the prototype for, in some ways, right? So this is the Pain Boy, or sorry, he's a Pain Boy, Bad Dog Pain Boy. I can't remember. I think it says Pain Boy on his base tab. He's got what looks like a rat hanging off his belt. And here's the best thing about this model, and I'm about to flip it over and show you the greatest thing ever on this model, because I didn't even know this until I started painting the model, and I found this on it, and I'm just like, that's fantastic. So we'll start with the runt herd. And I think someone in chat mentioned that he's got some severed snotling heads on his belt, which he totally does. You can see them back there. I haven't actually finished painting them yet. I just based them in Goblin Green, and they're going to need a wash, and then I'll paint them. So he's got a bunch of snotling heads because he is not a nice runt herd. Clearly, he is not. He's not one of the good ones, I guess. But neither is this Pain Boy. Because what I'm about to show you on his back is even better than the pile of heads that the runt herd has on his back. I'm prolonging the suspense here now. So you can see, like, basically they got the same face. They've got the little John Lennon glasses, very similar grin on their face, different equipment and stuff, but very much like this. And he's small, and they very much the prototype for what would come after. Same thing with the mech boy here, who I've decided to call Fritz for some reason. I don't know why, but this is one of the newer mech. So when they decided that what they were going to do was they were going to provide models with no arms so that people could essentially make them as they want, and that was sort of a novel approach to miniature design at the time. So anyways, let's just flip him over and I'll show you what I'm talking about on the back. Yeah, so he's got a snotling skin. He's got a snotling skin holding up. And I don't really know. I guess it's holding up. It's not really holding up anything other than he's just got a snotling on his back. And I thought maybe it was like one of those camelbacks, like you keep like water in it. Whenever he needs a sip of water, just take a little sip out of his snotling camelback. But how fantastic is that? And then, of course, what am I doing? Well, I'm looking for like stuff on other models. I'm like this guy is very basic. Like he's a basic mech boy. There's really not much going on. He's got a hammer. He's got a little thing for his well, in World War, those have been like his lunch containers, because sort of German soldiers in World War II, that was where they kept their rations. Were in these little tubes. He's got a giant wrench, which is awesome, and he's just a classic. Like, this is what you think of when you think of an orc mech boy. At least I do. And I've done them all in that Luftwaffe gray, fatigues, combats, whatever. So yeah, so love these, and I'm missing one still. So these are the 3 prototype odd boys that I have. I am missing which one? The weird boy, who basically is like an orc in a cloak kind of thing. He totally doesn't look like a weird boy. So my Blood Axe army is not going to have a weird boy. I'm going to have weird boys when I get to doing my freebooters, which will be phase 2 of the orcs here. I'm going to have lots of odd boys and things like that. It's all odd boys and freebooters and flash gits and chaos renegades and the plans I have for that. But what it really relies on is having all this good to go. So yeah, so I did some priming and I did some basing. My war boss, I made a base for him, and you can see I threw a little squig on there because why not? And I put him on a 32mm base. So he is on basically a Space Marine, a current Space Marine size base, because he needs something that's bigger for him, because he's a pretty beefy model. And then I primed some more orcs, so just because I'm trying to fill out, so I have my Blood Axe Big Mob, which you have to take. And then I have 3 smaller 5-man units of Blood Axes, which are the households. They're basically part of the clan, but they're the houses. So they're the ones that serve the war boss and his household, right? And the big mob being his household. So 3 of those, but I want to stretch it to 4, and I've got enough models to stretch it to 4, no problem. I could probably even go 4 and then make the big mob a little bit bigger. I don't want to paint too much of the, like I don't want to have duplicate models, which is what I would have to do to essentially do that. Because right now I have no duplicates in this army, which is kind of cool to have every single orc in it be a unique model. But the other issue I had was these guys. So these are orcs with plasma guns, and plasma guns are really, really hard to get into a Here We Go era orc army for some reason, which is weird because they make a plastic plasma gun on the sprue, on the orc weapon sprue from the time. They made these models, which were previous to that, but they didn't really. It's hard to get a plasma gun. The only way to get a plasma gun is to take a freebooter unit and roll up plasma gun, because they have access to the ranged weapon chart, or to take something else. So what I realized what I can do with these 2 guys is I can make them mech boys. I can just make them mech boys. And Blood Axes are supposed to have a ton of mech boys. And I've got a ton of plasma in this army. As you can see, I've got these 2 guys with plasma, right? I've got my Orc Dreadnought has got a plasma as well. I've got heat-based weapons, so this army is very much a pyromaniac army. If you know anything about orc psychology, and that's psychology with a K, I guess. There's a certain, and I've got the 2 guys with flamers as well, right? So there's a certain mania that can affect orcs called pyromania, where they just want to burn things down, right? So and all these plasma weapons that the orcs have been supplied to them by their imperial trading partners. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use these guys as mech boys, and I think I can totally get away with it. I thought about adding some like tools or something. I have some like random bits here and there, but I think just having them be like boys, because for every regular boys unit I can bring along a single mech boy, so I can actually have these guys in the unit. So we'll see where that goes. But anyways, that's stuff I have to finish. And then I've got a few other models. So these guys are technically plasma guns as well. Look at this little thing. But I'm just going to use them as bolter boys because they're orcs, and who knows what an orc bolter is, really. But they're just cool models. And then I've got one more heavy weapon boy to add, which is this boy. And he did have a giant, like one of those the second edition heavy stubbers, but I decided that I wanted to give him a las cannon. I have another boy with a las cannon, so again, these are obviously weapons that have been supplied to them by Inquisitor, their human advisor, who just happens to be an Inquisitor in disguise as a not Inquisitor, and that's this guy. And I'm going to be painting November 1st. So next Monday, I'm going to paint this guy, because ORKTOBER will be over, but this is still a model for this army, so he will have to get painted. And then there's one other thing that I'm going to paint, and this will also be in November, and that's my Imperial robot. And all of November, I'm going to be painting models to basically the opposing force now. So we've got the orcs. Who are the orcs going to fight? Well, to start with, they're going to fight some space pirates, because that's more fun than fighting Eldar, fighting Space Marines, or fighting squats. So that'd be cool. What else was there back then? That's about it. Tyranids. So yeah, the Gene Stealer cult. What are the other armies? Chaos Renegades, Chaos Marines, sort of stuff. Yeah, all that good stuff. But we're gonna start with some basic humans, wretched hive of scum and villainy, is what we'll call it. Because I have a bunch of Rogue Trader models, Rogue Trader humans, the classic human adventurers, space pirates, some of the Bob Ollie, Iron Claw space pirate models that I want to paint to be the opposing force to fight against my orcs. And that is going to be, is that a chip or is that just, anyways, doesn't matter. So let me show you how I do the bases. So the first thing I do is I get out my Glitter, Gary Glitter here. I guess we can't really talk about him anymore, eh? And I just use regular super glue, although I'm using exceptional super glue in this case. I'm using the super gold super glue. But this would just be sort of a regular super glue. So you just pick a model, and you go, okay, buddy, let's say here, right between your feet, and then I'm just going to bring that. So you can see I put like a line of glue on his base. And now I'm going to take his base, and I'm going to take this glitter, and I'm going to run it in there, and then run it out, and hope that enough interesting stuff sticks to it that I'm satisfied with kind of how it looks. It may end up being a mess, and you can always like take some random glitter and drop it on, and then pat it around, let it sit there, and then try and take it off. And then I'm just going to add a bit more glue, just to help lock everything down. And that's that. That'll be enough stuff on his base, and obviously there'll be more stuff coming for the base, because I have little bits of cork and stuff that I will add, and then I use 2 different types of texture to get my finished result, and just to show you sort of what I'm talking about when I say finished result. So you can see how this base is, and you can see somewhere where there's the chipping medium, or not the chipping, sort of the crackle medium, and then the micro bead agrax stuff, which also has a little bit of crackle medium, and you can see there's a little bit of stuff. So around the metal here is where we'll do the weathering pigments when I do that. But right now I'm just going to start adding some junk to these guys' bases. And sometimes you need to push things around so you can get to the good stuff. And don't worry about it being like, you know, it just needs to make sense to you. If I can grab another. I probably need to order some more of this glitter. It's not very expensive. You can get like a gram of it off eBay for like less than $10 or something. Like it's pretty cheap stuff, and it's literally just random old watch parts that maybe on this guy we'll add a second pile, because again, you want things to not look planned out, right? You want things to look natural, au natural. So I'll let that sit for a second and then just pat it off. And there we go. Look at that. That's cool. So that gives me a nice little bit to work with. Grab the next model and just do the same thing. Find a spot, put some glue on those spots, drop your model in, and I do this, and this is the same I would do with you know, almost anything else. And then if you like the way it looks, just drop some more glue on it, because I'm not going to be touching these bases again for probably 24 hours, so we'll have enough time to properly cure, and we can drop some of this glitter. So yeah, did everyone have a good weekend? Anyone who's watching? Inquisitor, did you trim the edge back? Did you trim the edge black at the finish? Do you trim the edge black? I haven't decided what I'm going to do the edges on my bases. Right now, it's either going to be black or they're going to be what I would normally do my base edges for this, which is earth. I call it Terra because so that's game color earth Tiara. So that would be the edging that I might use, or I might do black. I'm thinking I'm going to go black, just for a difference, just so that they don't look exactly like my Iron Jaws bases. We'll go and we'll do a little bit of we'll go around the black. So, and also I think that sort of seeing that, if you're asking about this rim, this is just actually the black base, because when I put them on the base hadn't been primed or anything. So what I'll do is I'll put some black primer around the rim and then just finish it with some flat black, and we're good to go. So yeah, hope that answers your question, because I'm thinking that's what I'm going to do for the bases. Grab some of this watch glitter. Ow. And it will stab you because there are little tiny pointy pieces in here, and they are very pointy. That's cool. You know, no pain, no gain, right? Isn't that what they say? And I don't even know what these little, like, purple bits are. I guess they're for, like, illuminating the watch or something. I don't know. Any watchmakers or watch repairmen out there watching? Let me know. Because, yeah, we'll just shove it in there and then add a bit more glue. Glue will just settle in, and there we go. So he's got a little pile of stuff on his base, which is cool. And we'll do the next guy. So yeah, if you follow me on Instagram, Eternal Chronicles over on Instagram, I posted a pic this morning of my kill team that I painted a couple years ago. I have no idea. In the before time, before the current year, so we just call that the before for, right? So I painted some convergence of series. Those are cool. Some of those are cool models. I thought about doing grabbing some, but anyways, I'll show this guy off. So this is my leader. So this is my leader knob, or whatever leads a Space Orc kill team. None of these models are actually really finished, which I'm kind of amazed by. That I painted them to the point where I felt comfortable putting them on the table, and then didn't really go back and well, I guess this guy's pretty finished, but I think I had higher expectations for myself in terms of the paint job on these. Oh, you can see his little targeter squig. Its eye isn't painted. So there's all like kinds of like little bits here and there that aren't finished, but this was a fun little project to do. And again, because I don't hate modern Space Orcs. I think they're pretty cool. This model's really cool, and so some of these guys I had, like this guy here. So the heads are coming from not Cromlech. No, maybe some of them are Cromlech heads. No, they're not Cromlech heads. They are Secret Weapon? Spellcrow? Spellcrow. most of these heads. I think some of them might be. I don't know. I have no idea. But look at this guy. So these guys are super pirates, super freebooters, and the whole army's kind of like that. Here's my runt herder with his little bowler, Lord Bowler, here, and his squig hound and his zappy stick, and then I think these weapons, this chain sword, chain axe, whatever thing, super choppa, whatever you want to call it in 40k. These are Cromlech. Yeah, I think. I don't know. And then my Burna boy. So they've all just got piratey heads, pirate themed. Like this guy's like, he's got a little pipe and like a little visor. I don't know, and a monocle. So he's a supreme gentleman, I guess. Oh, I like this guy. This guy's pretty cool. So yeah, like I did up like a bunch of flash kits and some knobs and some boys, and I have a whole lot more that are like not painted. So this is a mech boy, and he's got a little pipe there. What a great model. Need to finish that. And if you're wondering what color that primer is, that is Army Painter Fur Brown. It's a fantastic color to actually work over. And here's my what's his name? Big dude. And then I've got of course, you can't have Space Orc Pirates without the grots. Oh, and here's what's this? Oh, this is my Pain Boy. Here's my Pain Boy. And he's got a cool head on him as well. Peg leg, perfect. And then what else? Oh, I got a whole like pile of more orcs in here. They're probably hard to see. And there's some grots as well that I did. That never got finished. So sad. Oh, I found my red gobbo. There he is. Do 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 do. Viva la Grot Revolution! So yeah, so I dug those out of the basement to show you. I actually want to finish them and photograph them properly for the website and stuff. So let's keep going here, and then I'll do some dry brushing in a bit. So I think what I'm going to do on a show later this week is I'm actually, and I may actually do it on the Saturday show, is try and try and basically build an army list, because that's an adventure into and of itself. Is building an army list using the Here We Go lists, because it's all paying for rolls and then rolling to see what you get. So Inquisitor Savak, Convergence of Series. So do you play War Machine still? Because I don't know a lot of people that do. It seems like Privateer Press was bound and determined to keep that game alive, but didn't really seem like they wanted to do the work to keep it alive. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. When I was working in games retail, I watched the game go from, you know, being one of the most popular miniature games out there to really being a game that, unfortunately, not a lot of people were playing anymore. I had guys coming in trying to, you know, people trying to unload painted armies, and they can't even get, like, you know, retail back, you know, for their on their investment, and because they don't play the game anymore, because it doesn't seem like, I don't know. I thought the what were they? The newest, not the newest faction. No, maybe it is the newest faction. The new Hordes faction, the like Nightmare. Oh, what were they called? Crap, it's gonna bug me. They're the ones with all like they've got like the horses and the pigs riding humans, and like they're basically supposed to be like the stuff of nightmares, and they're kind of they kind of almost feel like a Malifaux faction shoved into the thing, even though apparently they're in the lore and they kind of allude to them. What are they called? I keep trying to say like Wickedkin, but that just sounds really lame. If something was called Wickedkin, I would be like, yeah, let's. What are they called? I don't know. Grimkin. There you go, Grimkin. Thank you. Not much. It's dead or dying. When it hits third edition and got rid of press gangers because of the WizKids lawsuit. I remember that because I was actually working in the industry at the time, running a retail store. And that was one of the things, and I actually had a conversation with the owner, pretty serious conversation about that, about like, well, what do we do? Because at that point, we had a game space in the store, and the game space had been closed because it was being abused. But we had discussed reopening the game space and allowing people to come in and game again. And then that WizKids lawsuit happened, which seemed like one of the most sort of it seemed a little ridiculous, but I understand like the feel of it is that these people, they represent your company, right? And you're not really compensating them. But you're empowering them with sort of a level of accountability. I don't know. This guy's a mech boy too, so he needs. And you can see like when I do my bases, it takes me some time to do them. I will do this. Every single model will have their own little unique base. And I'll spend the time to do it. A lot of people will just, slap on some sand or even just like one of those Vallejo texture things, and they'll call it that. I don't know. I like to put a little bit of extra work in my bases, and that started probably around like 2009-ish, when I started working on my Red Corsairs. Okay, I wrote a number 2 on his base in glue. So when I started working on my Red Corsairs, which I mean to get up from the basement so that I can photograph them, and those. So with them, I did like a cork basis. I made it look like a ruined city, right? So most of them are on like a raised concrete, and I used paperclip to like make rebar coming out of the concrete. I used some old I-beam bits and just generally went above and beyond on their basing for that army because I wanted them to have some really cool like customized bases. And it just sort of stuck. It just sort of stuck like, hey, you know what? I should be doing all my basing now going forward. I should be really trying to go above and beyond. You can see it on my Iron Jaws too. Like those bases make that army look so much cooler. Because the models themselves are just stock models these days, right? My Iron Jaws army has minimal conversions. The conversions that it does have are like using Gore-Grunta back plates with the little plume sticking out of it on my Brute Boss, right? Or I've got a special piece that I want to put here that I saw in here. Or the hammer that I gave to my Mega Boss on the Maw Crusher because I wanted, again, because that was a magic item or a relic or an artifact. What do they call them? I still call them magic items. There is insufficient disc. Okay, well that's got to be deleted. So let's. Gotta love this. I think when I'm streaming onto, I need to use my external disk. So give me 2 seconds here while I just delete some stuff. Deleted. Yes. All right. Inquisitor. Sorry. Now the chat is now behind. I'm gonna move the chat. So it's not behind my phone. We'll just switch everything around here. One of my base tricks is the green stuff rollers. I don't have a green stuff roller. I had a, I think it was Seppuku or whatever, Happy Seppuku, they made a bunch of like different imprints and stuff. Yeah, that stuff's cool. I actually haven't used any green stuff rollers or anything like that, but I totally would because it's definitely right up my alley. And as Nico says, there's a term we have for this level of attention to detail. Yeah, I mean, you can. I own it, man. It's a silly name that we have, and it doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. But I'll own it for sure, because I love to put in that level of attention to detail. I guess I don't know. It's my hobby, right? I could have just done these guys with Goblin Green and then Green Flock over the base for like a classic. It's not really a classic Rogue Trader look for the base, but definitely a classic 2nd edition look for the base. But I decided that I want to have Badlands, Mad Max style bases to go with Logan's World, and I'm going to do so. This is going to set the standard and expectations for all my bases going forward. So when I get around to painting my Space Pirates, when I get around to doing all the other stuff that I sort of have planned for Logan's World, which my buddy Alex and I have had great discussions about what we want to do for playing narrative Rogue Trader games, because Rogue Trader is such a fun game. Look at this guy. This guy's name is, I think, Thrug Bullneck, and I love his plasma pistol. His plasma pistol may be the coolest plasma pistol ever. And I like how they're all just standing over rubble. Right between my legs. I just find the rubble between my legs, and that's where I stand, I guess. Now, a lot of people ask me, what do I do about these gaps in the bases? And I will show you that right now, because why not? Some people use green stuff. Why? I use plasticine. So this is some great plasticine that I bought at a Gortzman's, which is an art supply store here in Toronto, which has been an art supply store here in Toronto for probably 100 years, maybe. It's in the same location down in Spadina. So I just go down there and I buy some plasticine, but you can get plasticine anywhere, obviously. And just like that, stick it in the bases, and it fills in those holes. So anywhere where there's a hole, so like there's a gap here, take some plasticine, stick it in the hole, squeeze it in till it starts to pop out the top, and then just clean it off. People are like, well, isn't that like really soft? Yeah, but it's going to be glued over top of it, and then I'm going to put sand over top of that. And as long as you're not going underneath the base and poking the model in the spot there, it doesn't really matter, right? So you take your little ball, you shove your ball in there, and it's good to go. And I will do that for all these at some point to cover those holes, if there are holes. Or I just do something creative like this, where I put some junk over top of the hole, and then I don't have to fill in the hole. But like a guy like this, definitely do. So yeah, and again, like bases, I could have just I know that Nico likes to use like the Vallejo textured muds and stuff, like the I think I had some like European wet mud or European dry mud or whatever, and it's all color matched to what the mud looked like, you know, in 1944 and the middle of Europe. But and that's probably the easiest thing to do, is like something like that, and then just dry brush over top of it, or wash it and then dry brush it, and you call it a day. But I like my bases to be a little bit extra, and a lot of my stuff I tend to do a little bit extra on my bases. Let's see. So here's an unpainted model that I will show you. So this is a librarian, a Phobos librarian, that is going to be for my Mantis Warriors, and he will be painted up. And you can see I've got some bricks on here, and then some sand, and then I've left some spaces bare, and that's where the bare spots is where I would put the crackle medium to sort of get the dry crackle, and then the rest of it, he's got something that comes with the model. And you can see I replaced his power sword with this power naginata, which I think is pretty cool looking, because they're kind of, and he's going to be totally ninja'd out in a big ninja-y way. Oh, this guy. I keep stabbing myself on this guy because he's carrying this giant pike around because he's going to be the banner bearer in my knob squad. And I keep stabbing myself on it. Every time I like reach past or reach over, I'm like, ah! Yeah, because I could just easily take it out, but you know, what's my famous saying? No pain, no gain. Yeah, that's right. It's my saying. I coined that. I made that up. If you've heard that, it's because someone else heard it from me. Yeah. All right. So we'll call that. Oh wait, here we go. Here's some gaps that can be filled in. Yeah, and once you've put white glue over top of it, or anything over top of it, really, as long as you're not messing with it, like actively trying to get at it, it just sits there and does its thing. And I've been using gray plasticine. So this is the second time I've had to go and buy gray plasticine, and they were both bought at the same place, and they were bought probably 20 years apart. Because for like $2, you get a whole lot of plasticine. And my old gray plasticine, which I had previous to this, which was bought back in the 90s probably, lasted me for many, many years. And this one I bought a few years ago, and it's lasted me for many, many years. People who use green stuff are wasting their money. Or who use anything else, really, you're wasting your money here. Sometimes the cheapest option is the best. Who else needs? Oh yeah, you gotta have something in there. There we go. And then we'll go over here on this side too. There we go. And it's super super quick and easy. Boom, filled. Fill McCracken. Done. All right. So I've got like a few more models to put some glitter on, sort of. How many more models do I gotta put glitter on? 4, 5, 6? You guys are all done. You guys, okay. And these models are not completely painted yet. Like I said, the little goblin or the snotling, I don't even know what that is. He's just wearing it on his back. It's so gross. I have to paint that. Same with the heads on the other guys. But I was impressed at how much painting I was able to get done during my isolation, waiting for my test results back to see if I could emerge and remerge with the human collective. Yeah, I like to put on things like that so that they kind of stick up and stick out. What this guy really needs is like a severed orc hand down here. Do I have a severed orc hand? Probably somewhere. But I like this. And if it looks a little bit funny, don't worry about it. You'll see on tomorrow's show how it's going to end up. So, yeah. So what else we got? I use Vallejo for my earth stuff. Yeah, I actually use that Vallejo and then go over it with dry pigments and other items. Yeah, so I'm going to be using some dry pigments. Maybe I'll do that on today's show. We'll figure out something. Just because of how I do like to use them tends to be, if I have to like get that out of there. Let's put that down there. That looks cool. That looks pretty cool. And then lots of glue, because who cares? You want it to be glued down. A couple more models here. This guy, I love this model. I really do love these. I'm just going to call them the prototype odd boys, because I don't know what else to call them. I don't know what else to refer them as, other than prototype odd boys, because people will understand what I'm saying when I say that, I guess. If you understand the space orcs of the late 80s, then you'll understand what prototype odd boy means. All right. Oh, and just the mech boy. What does the mech boy get? Oh, he's got to get some good stuff on his base because he's a mech boy, right? He's probably the one who looks at all this stuff and goes, "Oh my God, there's so much gold on the ground." Think about all the orky know-whats and gubbins and things that I can build out of all this. Add some more More glue. There we go. All right, so that's all that. So I'm just going to put these guys back up here, and then I will show you guys how I'm going to dry brush these bases, I guess. Put my glitter away, my Gary glitter. And so you can see, let's see, so here, this one is done. Well, not done, but the dry brushing on it is done. So what I did, I'll show you tomorrow, and I'm too seen. I put down, so I use the two different types of textures. So I use the Agrax Badland, or the Agrellan Badlands and the Agrellan Earth. So the Agrellan Badlands has micro beads in it, so it's kind of sandy. And then the Agrellan Earth has a crackle medium in it, and it's very smooth. So when it goes on, it dries and it cracks. The Badlands with the micro beads in it also has a crackle medium in it, but because of the beads, it doesn't tend to crack quite the same way. You will still get sort of the very similar effects, and you can see on here. So I'm going to start with this. I'm going to pull this guy off so I just don't stab myself on the little grot here. And it's two-stage dry brushing. Real simple. I could go to 3 if I feel that they're a little bit dark, but the way that this looks, I like. So we might just go with we might just keep it the 2-stage. And it starts with desert stone, and then we go to desert sand. And you can see they're just, one is slightly lighter than the other. So we'll start with the desert stone. And I'm not using my wet palette because I am dry brushing. So I'll just get a nice little line of it across there. And I'll get out whatever crappy old dry brush I was using. I generally like to use for dry brushing on this stuff, I like to do something with fairly long bristles. So here is an old Series 7 brush that I just use for sort of cack stuff. And I'll show you where I was dry brushing this morning. So just wipe it off. Again, you're not dry brushing. You just, because you are essentially, you want to apply actually a fairly thick layer of paint over the top of this. So I will just push this over here, and then I'm just going to start applying it. And no rhyme or reason, just make sure that you're getting a decent coverage on the thing. And you're using this will also actually help to lock your paint down. When I put the crackle medium, when I put the Agrellans over top of it, I then washed over top of that with Agrax Earthshade and a little bit of matte varnish to sort of help lock down, because what happens is that these crackles will actually flake right off because they're not, because they're crackling, and so they're losing their purchase. And you will find, and I can show you here, you will find that they do, like there was some stuff here, and I think it just flaked right off here. Or can you see it's under the arm? It's hard to see. But it's basically right here where one of the crackles just popped right off. And that's fine. You just go over that with paint, and the only person who's going to know is you, really. So yeah. Let's do this. And this can be as light or as heavy as you like, depending on what you're looking for. I like to go heavy around the edges, because again, you're using this paint to sort of lock a lot of stuff down, and going heavy around the edges, when you then black rim it, it helps it to frame things a little bit better, I find. And you'll also notice that I have not painted the tires onto Commissar yet, because I'm going to wait until I finish the base, and then I'll actually paint the tires, because I knew that this dry brushing was going to, I mean, not that it really matters too much, because it will just look like weathering, but it'll just be easier in the long run to just paint the tires once everything else is done. So I don't have to worry too much about getting, especially underneath, like underneath the chassis here, you just kind of want to get in. You don't have to, so no one's going to see it. It doesn't really matter, right? but just the illusion that there's ground under there is good. And then around sort of the rubble and stuff, you can, like, just don't worry about it. Don't worry if you get a little bit of your dry brushing on there. That's fine. And then I've got a mushroom here as well. I need to put some mushrooms in some of these other bases so that they're all mushroomed out, because I think that's what's happened to Logan's World, is that it was like a mushroom explosion or something. Now there's orcs everywhere. One day we woke up and there were mushrooms. The next day we woke up and there were orcs. Who's to say, right? So yeah. So that's layer 1. And I can go straight to layer 2. I'll just do layer 2 on this just so that you can see where it ends up. And that's with the desert sand. And I feel like this was a triad. I think there was a color called Desert Shadow or something that I'm not using, but it's part of the triad. So I own it, so it's somewhere. But I don't need it for this because the Agrellan Badlands and the Agrellan Earth are similar enough in color. So here now I'm going over with the sand, and this you want kind of a lighter touch to, because you can end up making things look wrong if because you just kind of want to, again, just, it's simple dry brushing. There's nothing simple about dry brushing. It actually, a lot of people deride it as a a poor man's highlighting or skill, but being able to dry brush well will certainly help you get things done. And there are certain effects that really a nice dry brushing is the only way to get that. Like these bases. What am I going to do? Highlight these bases? No, man, I gotta dry brush them. And you can see right here on the back where all that beautiful crackle is. You want to pay a little bit of extra attention to that, because it will help you it will help to show off sort of just how much work you put into your bases. Too much work, some might say. I don't know. What is the base, right? The base is like a picture frame, right? The wrong picture frame can ruin a picture. Can it? I don't know. But like lazy basing can also make your models look unfinished, right? A good base will make a half-assed model look really good, right? So that's it. That's pretty much there. 2 steps. Well, a bit more than 2 steps, but 2 steps from 2 steps for the dry brushing. The bases are a lot more than 2 steps, clearly. So I'm just going to keep going on some of these orcs. I'm going to go back to the stone. And again, it's not an exact science, so I don't worry about the fact that my brush has had some of the lighter tone on it, because it'll all work out in the end. So yeah, there we go. And again, I'm not worried about getting it on their shoes, because I am just dry brushing. All it's going to look like is that their boots are dirty, and their boots would be dirty and dusty with whatever the ground looks like, right? So it all works out in the end. And in fact, you will make, going out of your way to sort of add that extra little bit to the model's shoes and stuff, so that they actually look like they're walking on the ground that you have modeled onto their base, is a good thing, right? So there's one more. And I'm just going to keep those separate from those, because I'm going to have to go back over them. Oops. I'm going to need some more stone, I think. So, and like I said, I'm going to be putting some vegetation on here. I'm trying to decide on what color tufts. My buddy Alex and I were talking about using some of the what's the name of that company? Gamer grass. They make some like alien tufts, like some pink ones and some turquoise and some blue ones. The ones I like are the turquoise ones, but I would also consider the pinky red ones as well. But we want to have sort of a unified feel for what Logan's World vegetation is like. So I know what I used on the terrain that I'm going to be using, which is another issue, because what I am going to do with these is try and match the terrain that I made, which is actually matched to my Ironjawz base, because that terrain was made for a Realm of Beasts Age of Sigmar table, but it's also perfect for Mad Max planet, any sort of desert. It's a bunch of those Gale Force 9 Battlefield in a Box desert mesas and stuff. That theirs are kind of red. I repainted them so that they were more like this. And by repainted, I mean I gave them a very heavy dry brushing of these exact two colors. Stone and sand. Desert stone, desert sand. So in that way, however, there's also vegetation on them. So I will need to take a look at that, because I know which tufts and stuff that I used and which vegetation I used. And if I want these to match that scenery exactly, I will use the same on these, right? And I have no problem going back and adding a few tufts here and there of the other thing to try, like doing like some of those turquoise alien tufts, because I think that would actually be really cool. And I can still keep them for Age of Sigmar Realm of Beast, my Realm of Beast table, right? I love this model. Just love that grin and his little potato masher there. So, and this model as well with his crazy hat. So, and I'm not too worried about it being heavy, because again, it is ground, and there are, if you screw up and get like a huge amount of paint on a spot, you just put a tuft there and you cover it up, right? You don't need to repaint. You don't need to, really. And then again, like this guy's wearing rags on his feet, so I have no problem, dry brushing right up around his feet, because that's just gonna, again, it's actually just gonna help make it look like he's spent time walking on the ground that he's walking on, that he's modeled on. I know some people who really like clear bases. They'll use like clear acrylic 25mm circles. I got a friend who loves that look, because then they just blend in with whatever table you're putting them on. I don't. I like to have a finished base. I like to have a cohesive theme on all my bases as well. And I don't know if that may just be from 30-something years in this hobby that I'm biased towards a finished base, and the fact is that I enjoy basing. That's probably the big thing, is that I would do commissions for people and just base their armies if that's what they wanted, because I actually really enjoy doing this part of this thing. I don't feel like this is a task that I'm spending too much of my hobby time getting done. I legit enjoy painting and making bases for models. So, and I have a whole setup for it. I think I showed it off in an earlier stream. My basing caboodle. Although I think it's under here now because I cleaned up a bit. I keep pointing to where it was yesterday. It's not there now. So I have a whole basing caboodle with all the little bits and pieces and things in it that are useful for making bases. And I have lots of different types of foliage and tufts and base scatter, like these watch bits. I did that. I originally got those when I was working on my Iron Hands, and I wanted the cogs to put on their armor. I'll show off my Iron Hands at some point. Not this month because it's October, but next week is November, so we'll see. I went downstairs to get a bunch of stuff to photograph yesterday and ended up not photographing anything because because I ended up just spending the day hanging out with my kid and stuff, which was far better than sitting and photographing stuff all day. I'll get her to help me with the photographing, and I think next Sunday we might do I might do a painting live stream with her, and she'll sit in this chair and I'll sit beside her, and she will paint and show off her painted models, because she said she wants to do that, and I'm all about indulging my daughter's whimsy. So if that's what she wants to do, that's what she gets to do, I guess. Yeah. Do 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 do. Do 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 do. All right. Looking pretty good. How many more we got? We got one more back here. Oh no, you're still waiting to be painted. Man, so much to paint. But so much done. Like it was funny because once I realized that I had actually like succeeded in my plan of breaking the back of the army, it dawned on me. I was like, oh, I'm really close to being actually finished these blood axes. Sort of. I mean, there are things that I'm not going to get to. I'm obviously not going to get to the buggies. But those will be a quick paint up. And I've got to one buggy. What I really wanted to do was get all these orc boys painted. And mission accomplished. More or less, we'll say. I mean, I got to finish their bases and all that, and then I've got to actually like build an army for them. That's gonna be fun. Army builder, use their snow also, or do you mean army builder or army painter? Army painter snow. I have some snow. I don't know where it's from. Nico gave it to me in a Dunhill pipe smoking tin. That's how I know he gave it to me. I'm not sure where he got it from, but it's just white. It's white flock. So it might be army builder stuff. It might be whatever. I also have the worst shit ever. And I wear a mask when using this. It's secret weapon crushed glass, and it's literally glass sand, and it's powdery. And if you use this with another secret weapon realistic water, if you mix the two, you get slush. You get like really wet looking snow, and then you can go back over that with the flocky snow and try to put it around it and on top of it to make it look like more dry, like a drier snow. And I just found that works quite well. What did I do snow bases for? My Morat Vanguard. So for the game Infinity, I have the Morats, who are red space monkeys, and they're like the most professional soldiery in the world. A lot of people compare them to Klingons, and I think that's not appropriate, because Klingons all have this like warrior code of honor, and Morats don't really have that. Morats are just like, we're the greatest professional soldiers in the galaxy. We're incredibly disciplined. We don't run. For us, it's not about honor, it's about service, right? So the different philosophy with the Morats. Sorry, I'm just cleaning off my dry brush here. There we go. And then grab another brush. Oh, look, it's a null. It's a whole other dry. This is an old Citadel large brush. I guess it's not that old. I don't know. When did these... They don't have this red cap on them anymore, do they? No. This is what's this called? Large brush. Okay. So this I'm gonna take the desert sand now and do the top layer on those bases, and then they'll be done. And then maybe we'll get to do some weathering pigments today, because I think that might actually be interesting. Oh yeah, not you guys. I gotta start back here. Yeah, we'll start with you. So, and again, the lighter of the two tones, so a real feather touch, just to go over the top of things. Go around the edge like that to make that, to frame that picture. People used to say that, you know, like, essentially the base on the model is the picture frame, right? So if you have a blank base, it's like an unframed picture. It feels unfinished. you know, and then you got to take the victory lap. The victory lap is when the model is done, and then you paint the rim of the base. And once the rim of the base is painted, you are legally allowed to call that model finished. You know, by the high order of the Miniature Painters Guild of the universe. Once you've taken that victory lap, so you could just have a bare metal model, as long as his base is finished. You've beat the system. You cracked the code. So yeah. Everything feels weird right now. I don't know why. And I think it's all has to do with the fact that I moved my monitor so it's not like here on an angle and it's now more flat with me. And then as a result, I had to move the web camera over and stuff. So it just, I feel like I'm not painting properly just because of where I'm sitting. I'll try and make sure that I'm over the red dot, guys. If not, just yell at me. Army Builder Tufts. They have snow and static grass. They have snow tufts. I have a bunch of Army Painter tufts. In fact, Army Painter tufts are the ones that I used almost exclusively. Actually, I did use just Army Painter tufts. I wonder if I used a Warlord Game tuft in there, because Warlord Games makes some tufts as well. But the Army Painter tufts I used, I think one was called like Burnt Grass or Swamp, and then I used like a Wastelands tuft. And that's the thing, is like mix it up. Like, don't just go with one type of grass, right? Go with 2 or even 3. Same with the tufts. Use 3 different tufts, and maybe not use one of each on each guy, because that'll just start to look uniform. Use 2 of one of each, 2 and 1, 1 and you know what, just 2. Maybe no tufts. Have a base with like no tufts on it. It's got no vegetation on it. Because the more random and haphazard things look, the more natural it's going to look, because that's the real world, is random and haphazard, right? You know, like all my orcs, something that I would probably criticize myself on this is the placement of all these like little junk piles and stuff. It's all fairly similar. Oh, this guy's got a nice massive chip on his forehead now. Look at that, or right over his eye. Son of a... Well, I'll fix that another day. Again, usually before I go and do my victory lap and rim all the bases, I find anything like that on a model. So I just make a mental note to myself that I need to fix that, and that's unfortunate. But such is life, especially when I'm painting. Like, there's like 50 models on my desk right now that so they're bound to whack into each other and chip a little bit and whatnot. Fixing chips is a pain in the ass because it'll never look perfect. But we can certainly try, and we'll certainly do something. There we go. And again, I'm not worried about getting any of this onto the metallic stuff, because that's going to be weather pigmented, and then a little tiny bit of like metallic dry brushing over top of it, just so that it glints and shows up. And if I had my iron jaws here, or not my iron jaws, my iron hands, so many irons, my Space Marine iron hands, which I have a Horus Heresy army and a 40k army for, then I could show that to you. All right, how much? Are we basically done here? We're basically done here. All right. One more? Maybe one more. No, you're actually pretty good. All right. So that's that. So we'll drop that in the paintbrush. And take a breath. So, yeah. So let me... there it is. Whoa, the basing caboodle. So it's just a big tote, and it is full of all kinds of random things that I would use for basing. So here are a bunch of tufts, and these are probably all Army Painter or Gamer Grass or Warlord. These are Army Painter. These are ones that I will probably definitely be using on these guys because I really like them. I like the sort of the dark base on them, and I think they look good with that. I've also got some mushrooms and some other stuff and some skulls and some flowers. Yeah, so I have a whole thing that is just dedicated just for making bases on models. So that's how serious I am. I'm a professional baser. So yeah, alrighty. So let's go back and look over at these guys, and we'll see. You can see that the glue is not dried. I could zip kick all these if you have like a glue accelerator, but I'm just gonna let them sit overnight. Because the worst thing you can do is get super glue on a paintbrush. That is not a good look. Super glue on a paintbrush. So how about we do this? I'm gonna try and do a little bit of where'd they go? The weathering pigments. And I'll show you how I kind of do this. So I'm going to open this up. I'm going to zoom out just a bit. There we go. And we'll leave this here. So this is rust brown, which is the darker of the two. And this is rust orange. And inside here is basically a mix of the two. Because what I would do is I would put the whole model base in there. Since we're doing it like this, what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to grab a piece of tissue paper here, and I'll put the tissue paper down because this is messy work. And like I said, when I do all of these, what I will probably do is put them right over the garbage can and do them, like I said, like in between my legs, right over the garbage can, and put the stuff on because this shit gets everywhere. Because this is essentially pigment powder, so. This is what a paint would look like without any medium in it, right? Unless it's a liquid pigment. But so that is a pigment, and it's extremely fine, and it's extremely messy, and it will get everywhere. So you just get yourself a dry brush, and I don't mean like you're dry brushing. I mean like get a dry brush, and I'm gonna go with this one. It's pretty small. This is an old Citadel layer brush. But you can see it's seen better days. Oh yes. And I want to be really careful touching the model because I now have pigment all over my hands. So I'm going to pick it up by the base as best as I can. I can't. And I'm going to grab some of this and I'm just going to powder it onto, you can't really see, but putting the powder and spreading it over all this stuff. And if it runs past the outline, that's fine. It doesn't really matter because if you ever see rust tends to spread. Like if you see something that's really corroded, the corrosion will basically run into the areas around it. So, I'm not sure how well, you can't really see that very well. And you'll see, it's like, you're like, wow, that's really, why is that so red? Well, you're going to see what's going to happen in a second when I finish. So we'll put that there. And then over here, we've got a little piece there for some, and then some here. And then up on this thing. So this will just rub off because there's nothing affixing it right now, right? I really don't like doing this on my desk. It's just so messy. I'd rather be stooped over a garbage can doing this. Or I think I once did it inside a grocery bag. Like I would put both my hands inside the grocery bag and did it inside there. So that's that. And then I'm going to grab some of this orange, which you'll see is just a little bit lighter. And I'm going to dab some of that on as well. But this is just going to be more sort of roughness, roughen it. Okay, now I'm going to put that brush down. I'm going to close both these up because just the very idea of them being open on my desk terrifies me. It's so dusty. It's gross. It's just gross stuff. And it's all over my hand now, right? So I'm going to grab another dry brush, and this one is actually a medium base brush, a Citadel medium base brush. And this is what I'm actually going to use to flick it off, kind of. So this is where I would go and I would get something like this, because where I want to flick it off onto would be in here, would be better. So I'm going to hold it by the base, and then I'm going to take this brush, and this is a little bit stiffer with some bristles, and then I'm just going to flick it. So I'm kind of rubbing it off a bit. Spreads it out, but rubs it off. And think about it, I'm going to do this for every single one of these orc models. What a disaster. So yeah, and then there's one more thing that I'm going to do, and that's that crazy setting stuff, which is just gross. But it actually... So I'm getting yet another brush, and this one's going to be a real cack brush, because I'm going to get my... where did I put that? There it is. Ugh. Pigment fixer. Yeah, this stuff is gross. But it works. So, and it's going to change the nature of this pigment right away when you see it hit it. You see kind of how it flattens everything out. And yeah, I don't mind, again, like I said, I don't mind it staining the area around it, because it just helps to make it look actually a little bit more natural and stuff. So, and then you can actually grab some of the pigment that you've got lying around and toss it on there. Because when you put the pigment fixer down, what I will now do is I will go in with my lighter rust orange, grab the brush that I was using, and take some of that and gently dab it here and there, because what that's going to do is that's going to then provide me with a difference in tones. So, and it will fix down pretty good on there. I don't know, a lot of people get different results with pigment powders and stuff, and I say good on them. There's lots of different techniques for using them. I'm not a, I'm just kind of going for something natural. And this will be cleaned up with a little bit more dry brushing, a little bit more paint here and there. But this is actually something I quite... This is part of the process I actually dislike, because it's so messy, and I really dislike doing it on camera because I feel like disaster is around every corner. And you guys don't need to see that, do you? No. So I gotta wash my hands, or I need some like wet wipes or something, because I can't pick up anything because my fingers are covered in pigment. It's gross. It's gross stuff. Not a huge fan. Now it's on my keyboard, and it's everywhere. Oh God, the pigment's everywhere. Yeah, so that's why I dislike doing it on the desk, and I will do it into a garbage can, because I find that is actually keeps things a lot cleaner. So, and that's that. So when this dries, I'll show you what this will look like tomorrow, but you can kind of see where it's at. And it doesn't need to look fantastic right now. We will fix it a little bit with some clever dry brushing, and when it sets, you'll see what will happen is that the two different pigments sort of change. I don't even need to use the pigment powder. I could probably do this with paint. Sorry, I'm just gonna put that back up there, and that's the end of that for today, because I need to go wash my hands. So yeah. So yeah, so that is me working on my orc bases. My hands are covered in pigment right now. I need to go wash my hands before I can touch anything else. So that means that I'm probably going to end up... We're going to cut the stream there. It's 1:30, so that's typical Monday, I suppose. I have to pick up my kid from school today, so yeah, so we're just going to call it there. And I will be back tomorrow, essentially doing the same thing. Finishing up all these bases. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I've got 20 orcs over here whose bases are done to the point where I need to do the pigment. I've got probably another 20 or so orcs over here where I just put the I can pick them up by the base, but I just put the glitter on. So they will, so what I will do with them tomorrow is I will show you this because, oh, there's one other thing to go on, and I might do that tonight off stream, and that's the little bits of cork that I use to make like rocks and mesa and like flats and stuff. So we'll do that, and yeah. So let's see. Okay. All right. So I think I'm going to call the stream there today, guys. So once again, I've been Christian, your humble servant from the Eternal Chronicles. This has been ORKTOBER. This is the last week of ORKTOBER, so I got to get all this done so I can start painting humans, and start doing something a little bit different than painting orcs right now. Because I'm in the last week, I'm starting to feel the like. This is why I usually have multiple projects going on at a time, because I'm able to better manage my mental strain if I'm working on a few different types of things. Like it was great in the spring and stuff when I was painting, or even last year, late last year when I was painting wood elves and orcs and goblins, because they're so diametrically opposed in terms of how I paint them. The elves I tend to do very clean, very smooth blends on, very not a lot of dirt and grime, so not a lot of like heavy washing on them, very light washing, and just totally different philosophy for painting an elf than there is for painting an orc or a goblin. So having two of those things going on at the same time, and then occasionally throwing in the random ogre or the random chaos dwarf or the random chaos champion to paint up, variety is the spice of life, right? So yeah. All right, so hope you're all having a good Monday. It looks like it's raining outside. It said it wasn't going to rain today. I want to go for my walk. I'm going to go wash my hands. I'm going to go wash this rust off my hands. I hate the weathering pigments. Maybe I shouldn't bother. Maybe I should just use paints. It would be so much easier, so much simpler than using the pigment powder. We'll see. We'll see how I feel after I do a couple of orcs and I get like pigment powder all over everything, and I'll be like, for this. All right. So, it's Christian for the Eternal Chronicles. Saying, I don't know, I need some good like wisdom. In order to get there, you got to be willing to go there. Yeah, so I'll be back here tomorrow. Same orc time, same orc channel. We'll see you on the flippity flop. Peace out until